We've all probably heard of the phrase, he who fails to plan is planning to fail. It's a cliche. I know, like at the beginning of the year, we're always like bombarded by so many cliches, but I think cliches exist for a reason. And that's what kind of inspired me to organize this session. It's about career planning for 2023. So essentially, if you whether you are thinking about planning your next promotion, getting a pay rise, or even changing your career lanes, I think this session is a good session for you, and certainly for me as well, as I'm trying to navigate where do I want to take my career path next. And who's better to have as a guest on our podcast for this topic than Willorna Brock, who has over a decade of experience in HR and recruitment. But I won't give any spoilers. When we get to the introduction, Willorna can tell us about her experience. But before we get started, as you know, we've been working really hard on this podcast to set up everything and organize sessions that are useful for people, whether you're in your early careers or if you're thinking about changing career lanes, or if you just want an independent source of advice for your career. So if you find any of the sessions useful, or if you want to support us, please hit the subscribe button, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. It means a lot to me and also inspires me to organize more and more episodes for you guys. So without further ado, initially we'll go around the room, give a short introduction to ourselves. And I thought, let's start the session with a fun fact question. So I'm going to throw you guys into the deep end. It's a question that I usually ask when we are pre-drinking with my friends, but I think it's a good question. It's quite thought-provoking. If you could implement one law for everyone in the world to follow for 1 week a year, what would it be? And to give you some time to think about it, I can tell you mine first. I would make it illegal for restaurants to serve food without Tabasco sauce. Nah,
That's a good one. That's a good one.
It's caused me a great deal of trouble because anyway, I'm not going to give too much details about my obsession with Tabasco, but yeah, I think if I could be selfish for 1 week a year, that's what I would do. But anyway, I would pass it over to you, Victoria, first. Maybe you can give us a little introduction, and also if you could change one law for 1 week a year, what would it be? And then we can go to Willorna.
Ooh, okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Victoria, or you may call me Vicky. I don't mind. So I'm a design engineer, and I've been a design engineer for 5 years. So I'm currently working in the oil and gas industry. Since we're talking about oil and gas and energy, one thing that I would definitely change for a week, no electricity costs. So it just cut off.
Free.
No electricity costs, free forever.
Wow.
Or not forever, for a week. I'm a huge lover of heat. I love hot weather. I love the heat. So currently I spend a lot on my heating bills. So for 1 week, just to go all out, I think that's what I would love.
Wow. If you were running for president, I think a lot of people would vote for you.
I know. I would love that they should vote for me.
Thank you. All right. Okay, Willorna, would be great to get your answer as well. And also for our audience, I know they've been really keen to hear about your background. How did you end up in, I guess there's so much we want to know about you, but first I'll hand over to you to give us a brief introduction. And also if you could change one law for 1 week a year, what would it be?
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Willorna. I work in HR, Human Resources and Recruitment. So my background is also teaching, education. So there are two passions that I have, education and teaching and HR. And I feel the two marry well. When I left teaching, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I ended up somehow in HR. It's all about developing people, making sure people do well, making sure that people fulfill their potential. The benefit of doing it within HR is because I'm also looking at the commercial side. I remember when I was at university, economics was one of my favorite subjects. So by increasing productivity, making sure that people do well at work, making sure that companies thrive through their people, we are helping growth in the economy. We are helping an organization to do well. So that's what I love about HR. But also in HR, within HR, you know that a lot of the work we do in helping a company to grow is hiring people. So without people in an organization, nothing will get done. They always have this saying that people are an organization's best assets. So in trying to grow the organization and hire people, there's a recruitment part where you're helping to advertise the role, you're helping to put together the job description, you're helping to interview. So all of that, I have experience in recruitment in terms of hiring candidates, interviewing candidates. So where I give back to that in terms of where Specular is in talking about careers is using my experience, not just as a HR and recruitment professional, but also as a candidate, because I do change jobs. I do have my own career goals as well. But because I see both sides and because I've been a teacher and I have that experience of how people learn and how to present to your audience, how to make people understand something, I'm able to impart that knowledge to graduates and people who are looking for roles, etc. So I actually got a book as well. I had a book that I published in 2019 on job hunting. The title is Job Hunting, Myths, Secrets and Truths, but I'm actually republishing it to bring it up to date, to move with the post-COVID world, as I call it. So it's going to be called The Art of Job Hunting, and it will be published in March. So I have got
Excellent.
I have a really strong track record in helping people get jobs, helping people launch their careers. I'm really proud and passionate about that. I've mentored lots of graduates and helped a lot of people. There's somebody who started a new role in January, and that was through my coaching. So yeah, that is one of my passions. So in terms of that question of what I would do, which law I will impose, being a HR professional and caring about people so much, I would insist that people take time out, that everyone has some time out, probably not a week because it might not be practical, but allowing people at least 3 days in 1 year to just take time out for some self-care.
Yeah, no, that's a really good job. And actually, some companies have that on top of the normal holidays, which is so essential. I think everyone's kind of realized 3 days, but it makes you 100% more productive.
Exactly.
Anyway,
because sometimes people go on holiday or they have those well-being days and whatever, but they're still on email. Basically, switch off. Do not look at your email. Do not put on your out of office, I'm on holiday, such and such, but if urgent, you can contact me or WhatsApp me. Then you're not on holiday.
No. Cool. So thank you for that introduction. It's always so impressive to see your background in HR and also from teaching to HR that it's always been with people. I think going to the topic of the session for today, like career planning, it's quite a big task. Like, I don't know if anyone actually sits down in January. I know in some companies, your manager makes you do it and you do it just to please management, but for your own personal objective. But first of all, Vicky and Willorna, both of you, I want to know, do you guys have your own career plans for this year? And I can tell you that I do. Like, and in previous years I did, but it was never mine. It was the company, and it's a plan that I draw for the company to please my manager that I'm looking to excel, But it never really resonated with me personally. But now that I'm not really in a full-time role, I actually have a proper plan for 2023. Do you guys have your own plans, like career plans or life plans for 2023? And how did you go about like drafting that?
Willorna, do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't call it a plan. In fact, I'm about to write my blog. So this whole January thing doesn't work with me. My year starts at the end of Jan once I have eased myself into the new year, because I love Christmas so much and I don't
Yeah.
like winter too much. So okay, I can put up with it in December because of all the excitement and everything. And then Christmas is over. Within like 5 days, we're in the new year, and you start talking about New Year's resolutions. I mean, you're still in Christmas mode. You still got your tree up and everything, and you're trying to adjust, get your brain around. There's a new year, and there's that angst about a new year. There's that angst about what am I doing this year? What are my goals? So what I've been doing the past few years, what has actually been happening is I've been thinking in my head, processing and reflecting on what I want to do. But I do not beat myself up in January to say, right, it's January, I need to do this, this, and that. I ease myself into the new year. I literally ease myself because I'm lazy in January. I'm just hibernating. I'm just forget.
Yeah.
I don't do the whole I'm gonna go on a diet. I mean, in England, in this cold weather, who is going to be eating a cucumber and a leafy salad in this cold?
You never
So,
know. You never know.
well,
Let's just say this is not a diet session.
I can't. So I set my goals towards the end of, I call it a goal sort of thing. I set it at the end of the month. It's basically, I say resolutions, sorry, goals, not resolutions. So I make a list of things that I want to achieve. So I guess you can call it a plan, but it starts with a list of what I would like to achieve. And then once I have that list, I then work out how I need to get there. So I guess that's what you could talk about, the career plan, because obviously you need to map out on high level what you want. And then from that high level, you then break it down to what you want to do, kind of like a brainstorm or a mind map or that kind of thing. And that's why even when I coach people, or in my book, the first chapter is about starting the journey. What is your why? Where do you want to go? Because you think about when you're in your car and you're setting off on a journey, you know where you want to go, but you have to work out how you're going to get there. You're going to put your GPS or whatnot. So I think for me, I do a career plan, but it's in that manner. It's in that, what do I need to do? What would I like to achieve? And how am I going to get there? So that, in essence, is my own career plan. And it's actually worked. It's actually worked. I could think back. And I think they talk about manifesting, they talk about vision boards, they talk about writing things down. I find that it definitely works, because I was looking at my planners, because I do have a planner. I used to have a file of facts, and what happened with that was you should have the refills, and every year I used to have to get rid of my old notes and get new ones. But I moved on to a new sort of standard book planner since 2021, and it's good because you can look back at what you were thinking then and what you're thinking in 2022, and now we've got new year, I'm going to do a new one. So I really like that idea that I can look back at what my goals were, and honestly, I've managed to achieve pretty much everything that was in those, because I think there's that thing about the universe and you writing things down on your vision board. I know they laugh about it. It's a joke about manifesting things. But once you really write it down and set those goals, somehow, you find a way. There are things that I actually they're kind of really ambitious goals or things I wanted to achieve. I didn't really know how I was going to do it. And somehow I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, I did that. So you just have to get your brain and mind in that train of thought and start writing. And all this thing about resolutions, I wouldn't call it resolutions, because we're setting up ourselves to fail. When you have goals, when you have plans, bear in mind that you're a work in progress, that you have to be flexible with it. Something might happen, you might not be able to do it, but it's what you're doing. Pick yourself up and go back and try again. It hasn't been a smooth journey.
Because you've made it first thing first. I think a lot of people are don't like the idea of resolution or goals or plan new year goals, because it's so intimidating, and in the past use other people's formulas and it's failed for them. So what you did at the beginning was you gave yourself January to ease into the year, which you felt like it works for you. And you need to think about what works for me. And that's so
Mm.
important. Like, you can't just, sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't use other templates. And I think that's what kind of used to put me off from career planning or New Year resolution as well. And that's such an important point. But also, you made it simple. You just made points, like almost like bullet points of things you want to achieve. And then once you've got all of that in a paper, then you can worry about how you're going to get there. Again, you're removing that complexity from it. Vicky, I'd love to hear your story as well. Like, do you have any manifestations, New Year resolutions, goals, whatever you want to call it?
I think for me, like Willorna, just like me, I kind of ease myself into it. So I don't just start in January. I kind of tell myself from December, okay, what do I want? What do I want from this year? What do I want to achieve? And when I was younger, back at university, I was the type of person that kind of YOLO'd. So it's like, oh, I don't want to think about this. It's a new year. How intimidating. No, you should kind of, just do what you feel like. But then as I've grown older, I then realized the importance of writing things down, because, guys, time flies by really quickly. Like, where's the time going? Like, we're already in February. And what I do is that first of all, I watch a lot of YouTube videos about planning, productivity, to just kind of get my mind to see what I like, what I enjoy, things, trying different things. And I see, okay, what do I enjoy? What is it by the end of this year? I want to say, yeah, okay, that's something that I've achieved. So, I tell myself really simple thing. Okay, I want to go to dance classes. I want to take a course. I want to do a podcast, things like that. And I say, okay, I'm going to do something small every day. Talk to somebody about, career planning, talk to somebody about dance, drag a friend to a dance class, just all these little things. And it then slowly builds up. So that's something I kind of learned from, watching YouTube videos and reading books.
I'm going to hold you accountable to that. So how are the dance classes going?
I mean, it's going good. I did one last week, to be honest. It's
really?
Going really well. Yeah, I did one last week.
That's really good. I think it's so important when you plan something, plan the first step for as soon as possible. Because the more you give yourself, the more you give yourself to pull out. And something I planned, which is coming up tomorrow, which I'm already starting to regret. And Vicky, you know this.
I know what it is.
Oh dear. I signed myself up for a comedy show to actually do the show, not go for an audience to do it.
To be the comedian.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing.
And I'm already thinking about how I'm gonna run away from this.
No, you have to do it. You have to do it.
I think it's something cool. Do something like this once in your life.
Yeah, because I wanted to improve my public speaking skills. And that's something I'm really scared of, like speaking in front of a big audience. And I went to a few Toastmasters public speaking classes in the last few weeks.
I was about to mention Toastmasters because I used to go to Toastmasters.
Yeah, they're pretty good, but there's not enough opportunity to like practice. And I thought, you know what? Every time you're scared of something, do something worse. And then that thing you're scared of will become normal. That was my philosophy. I was like, if I become a comedian, then public speaking will become like a walk in the park. But I regret it already.
No, anyway, I regret it.
I'm not going to make any announcements. There's no guarantee that I'll actually show up tomorrow, but we'll see.
Oh no, you definitely have to.
You have to do it.
I planned. I'm going to that comedian class, so you're going.
That's why I'm taking Vicky with me. So
yeah, she'll be supporting you.
I will.
And if no one else laughs, you have to.
I'm gonna laugh.
Where are you getting the jokes from? Or are they just impromptu?
I've just written a bunch of things that I think it's funny, and I'm praying. I'm praying other people find it funny. Oh dear. Anyway, besides my comedy career, when you were talking about your book, Willorna, you said there was a chapter about what is your why, and that's something I've been pondering about for a while. How do you find your why? Like, it's such a big question, and it feels like, do I have one why? Do I have multiple whys? How do I know? Like, because one week I feel like I want to go and help like developing countries build orphanages. And next week I might feel like I want to tackle climate change. How do you know what's your why? And then where do you start working on your why?
Wow. It's a journey, right? I think
Mm,
at various points in your life, you're going to have different whys,
yeah.
depending on, because I'm very pragmatic. So,
Mm,
it's about the practicality of it. So, for example, you're talking about going to help an orphanage. At that point, are you at that point where you can do that? Do you have the resources to do that? Do you have the time of work? So, if I look back at my journey, I always knew that I want to work in something around helping people,
Mm.
hence the teaching. I always knew that I wanted to use my language skills, work for an international organization. But when I was teaching, I honestly did not feel like it was enough. And then I left, and then I did one of those psychometrics actually, and the career
mm,
one. And it sort of pointed me into HR. And I actually saw that all the different elements of it resonated with me. So I felt that it was a career that I wanted to be involved in. But I also knew that I like all these sort of volunteer, like I'm doing now, pro bono things. So I think it's just your desires. It's really aligned to your values, your motivation. I mean, there's
yeah.
an element of I don't want to earn more money. I want to be financially independent. I want to earn good money, but at the same time, I don't want to burn out. So let me
Yeah.
find a way. Let me find a balance. So it's really a deep, honest conversation with yourself. Being very honest and truthful and self-aware. And through that, you definitely find your why. But if you're really struggling, there are lots of online tools that you could use to find what drives you, your motivations, etc.
Mhm.
Like I said, I used one of those ages ago before HR, and in my book, I've got links to it, and there's stuff online as well. But
Yeah.
it's really, really important to find your why, as in, it's not even one thing is your why. Your why are your values, your motivations, what you want from life. It could be even what type of relationship do I want? What house, where do I want to live? So I don't think it's just one thing, because if you look at the wheel of life, we have a different facets of our lives. We have our personal life, which is important, our relationship with our loved ones. There's our sort of financial life. There's a professional life. There's our health. There's a spiritual life. So we're a whole. So I'm always talking about holistic. Look at the whole person, the whole being. Because if your
Yeah.
why is just about earning money, is that really going to fulfill you? Are you really going to get fulfillment? Because when I talk about
No.
finding your why, I'm talking about something that would make you feel fulfilled, something that would make you feel like you're living a meaningful life. And a meaningful life is not just tied to one thing.
Yeah, that's a really good explanation. And what resonates is, like you mentioned, be pragmatic about it, but also look at your personality. I think that those psychometric tests or the personality tests have substance to it as well. Like if you do the
Mhm.
test and you find that you are a very creative person, you're a very extroverted person, you don't want to get a job where you're stuck in the office and you don't have any ability to talk to anyone all day. Similarly, if you don't like talking to people, don't go
Exactly.
and work in sales. How?
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's, what
just
if? Oh, can you
go ahead. Go ahead, Vicky. No.
I was gonna say, what if you can't find your why? What if you're finding it really difficult? Maybe you have multiple interests. Maybe you can't really focus on exactly that specific thing that you want to do. How would you, kind of motivate yourself to keep going even if you don't have a why?
I think you will definitely find that you
Mm,
have a why. You're going to have, even if you have multiple interests, you
mm,
should be able to identify the ones that are priority, the ones that mean a lot to you. So it's basically like a basket, it's like a wish list. I have
mm,
all these things that I want to do. Okay, given my current circumstances, given my money, given my resources, given my time, because you could have caring responsibilities, you could have things that would hinder you from doing that. So being honest with yourself. I've got a list of 10 things that I want to do. Let me identify. Remember, you don't want to overload yourself.
mm,
Let me identify at least 3 of those things that are really important, that I want to do, and let me start going for them. I actually do have a wish list of stuff I want to do, but some of them I've actually parked them for the next 5-10 years, or when I retire or something, because I know that
Yeah.
it's not going to be possible for me to do them right now.
Yeah.
So you can still have your why, but some of them you might not be able to do right now, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good, because for me personally, I have way too many interests and I like doing all sorts of things. For one moment, I wanted to learn Japanese. The next, I want to become a piano player. You know, there's so many different things that I want to do. So I guess it's true, you know, focusing on what your priority is, what you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
time for, something that I need to kind of remind myself. And I'm sure that a lot of people that are listening will have the same thought as me as well.
Yeah, exactly. I
yeah.
love the piano. I used to play as a child.
Oh, nice.
And I'm rusty now. I've got a piano in the house, but I'm rusty, and I keep saying I need to pick it up again. But my schedule right now is just crazy. There's no way I can do it. But it's on my list because I know I'm going to get to it at some point. A
Yeah.
couple of years ago, it was Spanish. I wanted to reinvigorate my Spanish. And it so happened that I started some Spanish classes. This was during COVID, actually, because you could do everything online. I discovered all these apps where you can find a tutor abroad. So
Yeah.
I started my Spanish lessons again. And funnily, I ended up with a job where I needed to speak Spanish for the role.
That's
So
amazing.
Wow.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh my
I think
gosh.
that's that manifestation that you were talking about earlier. It's so
Exactly.
true.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
have you-
Because on my vision board, there was an
Yeah.
article I came across in, I think it was the Sunday Times. It said why languages are so important or something like that. So I cut out the title of that article, but focusing on where it says languages, and I put that on my vision board.
Mm.
Oh, nice. It's
fair.
sorry to ask, but is your vision board like, is it physical vision board or is it like a digital vision board?
No, I'm very old-fashioned in certain things. I mean, I'm very tech. I've got my iPad, this and that, but I still love to write things down. So my
Okay.
vision board is an old-fashioned little notice board
Oh,
that I
lovely.
have stuck. There was this day that it was really crazy when I was doing it, because I bought all these magazines, like old magazines, Sunday magazines, and I sat there and I cut out all the
Wow.
things that
Oh, that's so nice, like a collage. Oh, that's so cool. I love
yeah, and
thinking-
I did it, and I've got drawing pins, and
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, nice. Mine right now is kind of on OneNote, so I kind of write all my visions there. But I think that I need a physical one because I tend to forget about it as soon as I close my laptop.
Yeah,
You
the
know what they
physical one
say?
is in my bedroom, so you can actually see it.
Yeah.
Ah.
And they say when you actually write something down, like with pen and paper, it sticks to your brain more than when it's digital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
why my iPad has the pencil, because I
Yeah.
still like to write, so I'm using the sort of digital note taker.
Oh, nice.
I think I use Good Notes. I use two, Good Notes and Nebo. Right, I'm not selling them.
I use Good Notes as well. I
Yeah.
love my iPad.
Yeah.
Right. So going back to the whole career planning, I think maybe step number one, if you don't know what your why or your purpose is, step number one in your career planning list, find out your why. And it's not about sitting
why are you
down
why?
and thinking about what's my why. Just write down a list of things that you're interested in and then pick the top 2 or top 3 that you are most interested in. For example, I'm also interested in languages, but every time I have a free time, I do other stuff. Like I go to events. I don't really find myself memorizing German words. So that's my hint that maybe it's not so top of the priority. So if whatever you spend majority of your time doing, that's probably the thing that resonates with you or is closer to your why. So let's say you've found a number of things that are your why now. So like Vicky has chosen dancing. I've chosen to becoming a comedian a try. How do you go about? And sometimes it's those random things, right? Like it's not necessarily tied to a defined career path. And if you were to share with your friends and family, they would probably say to you, have you lost your mind? Like, just go and get a job and focus on that. How would you set yourself the discipline to block out those noise, like discouraging noises, because as we've seen, maybe like a decade ago, if you had told your mom like I want to be a YouTuber, they would laugh at you. And even today, but we all know that some YouTubers earn a lot more money than like even surgeons. So you never know what that thing that you're interested in could be tied to a career path. You just have to follow it and follow your gut. So how do you like stick to your gut and make a plan around it so that you can work on it in a disciplined manner, especially when your why is something that is not tied to a traditional career path?
Okay, that I love that you mentioned your gut, because I think that's one of my quotes in my book as well. Like, listen to, because in my book I've got quotes, because I have various mantras that I talk about all the time. And one of them, definitely listen to your gut, it doesn't lie. Now, think about it, it's your life. I know our parents, our families, everybody has something to say. Everyone has an opinion. But to be honest, in fact, even when I was leaving teaching, like people were like, oh, what are you going to do now, etc. Don't tell them.
Simple, yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're young and your parents obviously have that influence in your life, you are going to have to share. But at the end of the day, if you really want something and your gut is telling you that that is what you want, just go for it. I mean, I think the reason why, because I've come a background where, yes, they will, up until today, they will still sort of have something to say if you said you're going to become a YouTuber, or you're going to do social media, or you're going to study media, because I come from a background where it's very academic. You have to be academic, you have to study law or medicine or something like that. You have to go to proper university, blah, blah. But I understand all of that. But thankfully, that's changing. I think it's coming from a place, because I'm a parent now, I think it's coming from a place as a parent, you just want the best for your child. You just want them not to fail. You know that to make it in certain professions, it's really tough. And if you really look at it, if you really dig into it, the people that have had the opportunities to excel in those professions are people who have probably really good financial backing, so they can do it. So if you're from a background where, you know, your family is struggling or something like that, and your parents is saying, well, go and get a proper job, there's a reason for that. But I would say there are still ways around it, because you could have your day job, or you could find yourself something that will sustain you whilst you find your passion. There was a time when I was actually going to give up full-time work and focus on just being a HR consultant. And I was so passionate about that goal that I wanted, that I actually made a comment that even if I have to go and work in John Lewis, which is one of my favorite stores, and get the discount as a day job, and then do this to build my business, as long as I have money coming in to feed myself and feed my family and pay my bills, then I'll do it. So you can still really, if you're really passionate about something, you can still go for it. There's lots of ways. And one of the benefits of the pandemic is this online and remote work thing as well. So if you need to earn money, if your parents or anyone is putting you off because they think you're not going to earn money or you're going to struggle, you can find things that you can do online. You can work from anywhere type jobs to have some money, income coming in whilst you find your passion. That's what I would do. That's what I would do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, I think you have to kind of be realistic as well. If you're staying with your parents and they're funding your livelihood, like you don't need to pay rent, you don't need to pay bills, then they have certain autonomy over you because they are funding you. Yeah. But if you are fully independent, then you own your own life and your own career path. But if your parents are paying for your living, then first thing first, you need to find a way to become independent. Like you said, get a job in a customer service, John Lewis, any retail shop. Like those retail jobs are always around, online shops, contract jobs. You can become a customer service assistant, sales assistant, whatever, and you can just think of that as a way to pay the bills. And then
That's
on the
true.
side, you can work on your whatever that's lights your soul, for lack of a
Exactly.
better word.
Exactly. I think you should still pursue, because if you're not pursuing what you really want, you're probably not getting fulfillment from life. You're
Yeah.
not happy. So it's just a way of finding how to get that done, because we've
Yeah.
only got one life to live. We're on this earth. We all have a purpose, and you should fulfill your purpose.
Yeah.
So it's not for anyone to tell you, don't do this, don't do that. But if it's your parents or loved ones telling you not to do it, there's probably a reason. They're scared that you're not going to do well in it, or they're scared about how you're going to sustain yourself, or they be successful. So it's about you convincing them that, don't worry, it's going to work. And it's
Yeah.
also about you being really committed that when the going gets tough, you're not going to give up. You're going to still carry on.
Yeah.
That is very true.
I think parents is one thing, and then the society as in general is also another, with their expectations. Maybe nowadays there's more fear as well in the market, because people are like, oh my God, the economy is not doing well. So if you have a job, just stick to it. Don't make a change. There's no jobs out there. I've looked around for some jobs like recently myself as well. Yes, the number of hires for companies is lower than usual. But it's definitely not true that there's no jobs. Like, companies are still hiring because there's still jobs that needs to be done, but it's more competitive. So I wanted to ask for your advice, like for someone who is on the recruitment HR side, if how can candidates prepare themselves with like extra skills, ability, thicker skin to continue asking like to continue looking for a job that they like, and to continue negotiating with their manager if they want a promotion or a raise? Because yes, there is an economic downturn, but it doesn't mean that we should put all of our career ambitions to on a pause.
Not at all.
Right?
Not at all. If you think about it, there's always going to be an economic, that's the law of economics. There's always going to be a cycle. There's always going to be a recession, and then growth, and then a downturn. And I believe that good people always get jobs. And right now, there is a war on talent still, whereby companies are struggling to get good people. So it's not just about getting people, it's about getting good people. And it's still not everyone is a good, it's hard to get good candidates. So the best way is to stay ahead of the curve, is to be really good at what you do, position yourself well. And I think sometimes it's really hard now to just even apply for a role. It's all about your network and who you know. So where are you positioning yourself? Where are you visible? Are you in the right network? Have you got the right skills, the right qualifications? What's your CV looking like? What's your LinkedIn? So it's all of those things. But I still believe that there are jobs for good people if you position yourself well, and a lot of perseverance as well. Don't give up. It's hard. Rejection's horrible, but don't take it personal.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You brought up the point about network, which is something I actually wanted to discuss as well. So I wanted to ask you, network or CV, which one takes more priority? So say that you know a candidate, and you met them through a networking event, and there's someone that just gave you their CV, but their CVs, they have all the skills, but then you've met this person. Which one would you be like, actually, I want to interview this person?
Are you asking whether you would interview the person who
you
or the person? I would do both. I would interview both of them.
There's only one spot. If you only had like one spot,
create another one, because you can't tell. Like, somebody introduced you to someone, you haven't tested this person. Likewise, you haven't tested the person on the CV. I mean, it depends on if you're saying you've interviewed the person already that was introduced to you. So what makes you think that they are so good? Have you interviewed them? Have you asked them relevant questions? Well, maybe if you've interviewed them already, inadvertently interviewed them, and you can see that they're good, then you don't need a CV person. But I wouldn't know if someone's good from just a conversation. I would have to put them through the interview process. And there's also a bit of ethics in that as well. To be fair and give everyone a chance.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a recommendation, but let's give this other person who did not have the benefit of that network a chance, because not everyone can benefit from who you know or the network. So I would interview both.
So to flip that question a bit, the person who you know, like you don't know them personally, like you're not friends with them, but let's say you've met them at an event and they send across their CV to you, but their CV is not that great. Would you still interview them?
Yeah, because
Okay.
again, not everyone's good at writing a CV. Not everyone's good at presenting themselves well on a CV. So there's two things. There are people who can't present themselves well on a CV, but they're fantastic at interview. They got the gift of the gab. And there are people who are their CVs are rubbish, but at the interview, they just excel because they haven't had that opportunity to really, they don't know how to do the CV. And then I think there's a time when the manager reached out to me. This now is about experience. This is about somebody who was a fresh graduate versus somebody who had about 2 or 3 years experience. The fresh graduate did the interview really okay, but had lots of potential, whereas the other person did the interview really well, but there are some flags. I had to convince the manager to give the role to the person who didn't perform so well, but could see that there was potential. So it's all about, I guess, intuition and sense, because at the end of all of these things, we are human at the end of the day. When you click with someone, sometimes you just get the chemistries right. And I like fairness. So I would never interview somebody who I met at an event and leave out somebody whose CV just sent out. It's just my own values, because I believe in giving everyone a chance.
So that really goes to show the importance of networking, doesn't it? Because if you send that rubbish CV without having network with that person, you probably wouldn't get the interview. But with the networking, you would.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So what's considered a red flag?
Red flag is probably they haven't answered the question properly, or you could see that they haven't got the experience, anything really, or maybe the way they've behaved or certain things they've said. You just thought, oh, where is that coming from?
Yeah. I think it's important to like get to know the company culture which you're applying for a job and kind of try and align yourself to that. Like if you're applying for a role where everyone's super formal and you turn up looking casual, that's probably a red flag for them. And also vice versa. If you go for a startup where it's quite casual and you're like wearing a suit and you're so rigid, that's also a red flag for them. So I think you need to like pay a lot of attention to like the environment you're going into.
I think if you have to be more formal, it's better than being casual. So if you turn up somewhere overly dressed, that's a lot better than the other version where you turn up looking casual.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you mentioned just on the current situation, we know competition is more, and you mentioned it's important to stay ahead of the curve and be good. Probably, I think maybe a few even a few months ago, if you met a candidate that had potential, you would give them a chance. But nowadays, there are so many fully qualified people applying for the same role. So those people with potential would probably have a much lower chance. Because if you have access to someone who can hit the floor running from day one, and they're willing to take the role, whereas as someone who you need to train for a minimum of 1 year and they might still not be hitting the floor running, like you're probably going to go, especially if your company's revenue is down and you really need the support, you're going to go with the more qualified person, right? So how can people use this time to skill up and also make connection with recruiters and just find creative ways to strengthen their ability to get through to at least that interview stage? Because I've noticed there's before, a few months ago, if for one role 50 people applied, now it's 150. So naturally,
Wow.
a lot less people are getting to the interview stage. So how can people at least like strengthen both their application, but also their network with that person who's recruiting to get to at least get to that interview stage?
I think once you know the job you're applying for, you look at the job description, the requirements of the role, and look at your skills and experiences and see whether they match that. Use that to sort of map out what you're lacking, what sort of skills and experiences or qualifications. So use that time to upskill yourself, to better prepare to apply for the role and get to know the company, get in touch with recruiters. I mean, some recruiters are very open to talking to you and giving you the lowdown on the companies, on what's going on. And they can even help as well to point you in the right direction of roles or where you can do. And that thing about giving people a chance rather than somebody who has had experience, that one is really down to individual hiring managers and employers, because some people are just, of the view that I'd rather take somebody who has potential rather than somebody who is going to hit the ground running. It's about willingness to train. It's about whether they have the capacity. And sometimes it's not that they don't want to train people up. It's because they're already busy. They don't have the capacity to train someone up. But really, a lot of people want to give people a chance and will look at getting somebody who they feel is a good fit for the organization. Some organizations about sector bias, I call it sector bias because they'll say, oh, you must have worked in an engineering firm or you must have worked in oil and gas. But you do find hiring managers who like diverse experience, who want to bring fresh insight into the organization. They don't want somebody who's going to be thinking like them. They want somebody that's going to come in with fresh ideas. So it's luck as well. It's just really life. But just put yourself in the best possible scenario so that you can prepare and put yourself in a good position to get the role. I mean, I've changed sectors a lot. And it's just because and you have to demonstrate that you have transferable skills. So you could say that, okay, I did this in an engineering firm, but you just try and see how you're going to relate that to their company. So when you're giving examples at interviews, be very careful not to give it examples that they can't relate to. Think about your questions and the answers as storytelling. So I don't know you from anywhere and you're coming to tell me about something you did. I don't have a clue about that scenario. How are you going to tell me this story so that I get what you mean, I understand, and I can envisage how it would work in my organization? So that's the mistake that people make. They go and they give answers thinking that this person will understand. They don't know your company. They don't know the context. So even if it's a different context to them, try and bring it to life, bring that story to life so they can see how you can add value based on that answer. Don't be stuck in, don't use the language that your company uses, for example. Don't use the jargon that your company uses or the acronym that your company uses. Or if you do have to use the acronym that your company uses, and this goes for your CV as well, because people write on their CVs acronyms. So you can describe the acronym in like brackets on your CV, or if you're in an interview, describe just a quick sentence of what that acronym means. But if you go and just give a story that I'm not going to relate to, you're falling down, because I cannot envisage you. I can't put it in context into how this would work and how this will be transferable in my organization. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Look at the job description, find out where your gaps are, upskill yourself where you can, and also polish your skills, like interview skills, your CV skills. And there's so many resources online, so there's no excuse for like showing up to interview
and if
rusty.
if you're changing sectors a lot, don't forget to use like transferable skills and demonstrate it, make sure it's relatable. I think that's really important, because I'm also thinking about, changing sectors, so making sure that I don't talk jargon and making my skills relatable is something really good to remember as well.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you don't need to work in an industry to learn their jargon. You can just go online. I remember once, even when I was in university, when I applied for a pharmaceutical company, I read on Wikipedia basically every part of the process of that manufacturing. And then when they were asking me questions in the interview, I was explaining the whole manufacturing process to them. And then the guy was so surprised, like, how do you know all of this? I prepared. And
Yes,
you can prepare, like, especially if
you
you're
can. There's everything. Like you're applying to a company. There's
yeah,
everything about that company on their website. There's absolutely no excuse to attend the interview and not know stuff. Some companies have their own YouTube channels.
yeah.
Some companies have podcasts. So you go to an interview and say, "Oh, by the way, I listened to this podcast. I know it was so interesting." No, no, no. That impresses them that you've taken time out to find out. You're that committed that you've taken time out. Because some people that work there haven't even listened to the podcast, but you
Yeah,
have.
That's true.
exactly. Excellent. That's been so useful. So just to summarize into the career plan for 2023, basically, number one, if you don't know your why, find out your why. And if you know your why, there's a bunch of things, like narrow it down and focus on your top 2 or 3. Like if we go by the average age of living, you probably live for 80 years, so you've got time. Like, you don't need to cramp everything into this 1 year. Like, you've got at minimum another 50, 60 years to go. So find out your why.
Exactly. Thank you. Lifelong learning is one of my other things, because I see people who are like 70 years old, 75 years old, and they've started a new hobby.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah.
The growth mindset is so important.
Yeah. Be clear on your why, write it down, mood board, whatever works for you. Just make sure it's there and you refer to it all the time. Secondly, find a way to be pragmatic about how you go about your why. So if you need money to live, find a way to make money and work on your why on the side. Just be practical about it, and keep going. Like, don't let the fact that you need money to live stop you from working on your why. And then thirdly, look at your current situations. Where are your gaps and how can you overcome them? So make a list of where you're lacking and start working on your, whether a skill gap or knowledge gap, start working on them. Is there anything else that you think I've missed from this, I guess, essential, maybe a little bit of a roadmap of career planning that you think someone should do to help them execute their goals for 2023 better?
One thing I would add, the bit around, if you need to earn money or that kind of thing, if you need something to sustain you whilst you're finding your why, going about executing your why, it's about sacrifice, okay? You cannot have, it's something I've had to learn myself. You can't have your cake and eat it. So you might need to cut back on certain things. You might need to decide, I'm not having a holiday this year because I need to invest this money on this course. So think about that. If you really want it that bad, take the long view. Don't be, what's the word now? What do they call it again? Short-sighted. Don't be short-sighted, right? There's always an end date. There's an end date. This course that you're doing, this thing you're doing is going to end one day. So if I don't have a holiday this year, I'm not going to die. Like, next year.
Yeah, that's so true.
You can have a little spa day. You can have a break.
Exactly.
Doesn't have to be a whole month away. Do something small as well.
Yeah, just something small. Just take a drive down to the coast or something.
Yeah. And sometimes what we perceive to be a sacrifice is not really a sacrifice. Like, it's probably not good for you anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
That's a good way to think about it. That's how I convinced myself to do dry Jan, and I can't believe I actually did it.
You did it. Well done. Mine finished like week 2.
Really? Trust me, I was tempted at times. But the way I got myself through it is by thinking about saving money. I was like, you need to save money.
I was so bad. Like, I took a picture of it. I said, oh my God, this is the end of my session.
Oh dear.
That's it.
That's right. I mean, 2 weeks is good. That's why having goals is good, because even if you don't hit your goal, wherever you end up, you've still achieved something. It's still better
Exactly.
than your
2 weeks
starting
of
point.
not, yeah, 2
Yeah.
weeks was good.
Take the little wins.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Celebrate the little wins.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed the discussion. It's been so like enriching. Is there any
Delightful as
last
well.
words both of you want to say? Like if it's for me, I think like it's better to plan and fail than not plan and fail, because at least you know what didn't work. But yeah, if you guys have any other last comments, and how can people, especially with you, Willorna, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect, if they want to follow your journey?
Sure. My last word is about one of my mantras, which is about failure. So failures are lessons learned. I am a work in progress. So it's all well and good. Do your career plan, map out your goals, but don't beat yourself up when things don't go according to plan. It's baby steps. It's a journey. Life is a journey. And sometimes it's those things, those missteps, those mistakes that actually teach us the lessons that we need to learn. I have lots of examples of things that I've thought that were mistakes, but looking back, they're actually a blessing. That's how I got to learn a lot more about myself. If anyone wants to get in touch, they can. I'm on LinkedIn, and my blog page and my website is Goshen. Sarah, you can put that on the notes or something. And my book, The Art of Job Hunting, will be coming out in March. So all the best with everything, and yeah, just keep pushing. Don't give up.
Where would we be able to buy your book? Oh, would it be on Amazon?
It'll be on Amazon. Yeah, yeah. I'll be sharing the link and everything shortly.
We will include all the links in the description of the YouTube video, so you don't need to memorize it. It's fine. Vicky, go ahead. Your last anything you want to finish the note on? Yeah.
All right, I would say have a growth mindset, keep on learning. Even if you fail, don't think of it as failure. I was listening to this TED talk, and they say, think of it as not yet. I haven't not yet reached my goal. So even if, you don't get to the part that you want to get to, or you don't get the grades that you don't really want to get, or, things just don't go to plan, think of it as not yet. I'm going to get it. It's just not yet.
We'll put a link to that TED talk as well.
I will.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and take care.